and welcome back to my channel. Surprise, surprise, I have another book haul because I have a problem. But I feel like I say this every time. It's not like I just bought these books all yesterday. Like, I've been slowly collecting these over the past month or so, which is still kind of a lot. But you know what? My excuse, not that you really need an excuse, but my excuse is that my shelves are still bare and I'm working on filling them out, and maybe then I'll calm down. I don't know. A lot of these are from half price books because I like a good deal. Some of them aren't. Some of them are from Amazon. I think like one's from Walmart. I'm not picky when it comes to where I buy books from. I look for the best deals, special editions, ones I want, you know, whatever. Things that look interesting. Who cares? It's fun. I love reading. I love books. It's my thing. So the first book I have is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I feel like I've talked about this book before in a video. You know what? I think I gave it away in one of my little free library videos. Go check them out. I have a whole playlist of them and I'm definitely doing another one soon. I love doing that. But I actually don't own a copy myself. This copy is from Barnes & Noble. It is so cool and I just was like, you know what? That's such a cool copy. I need it. I love when they give classics cool, updated, modern covers. I mean, classics come in all different kinds of covers, so you can kind of choose which one you like the most. But I really like the cool, fun ones. Just like I have this one of Dracula. So, I don't know, I like that stuff a lot. You know, I even got a compliment when I was checking this one out from Barnes & Noble too by the cashier. She was like, oh, that's so cool. I did read this book in high school, I think. It was part of an assignment, but I haven't read it since. Maybe next spooky season, this can be one I revisit. So the next book I have, Sleep No More by Jane Ann Krentz. This is a book I got from Half Price Books. I kind of have a habit of seeing interesting looking books at Half Price Books that I know absolutely nothing about, and then wanting to buy them and read them. Like, I like reading all the talked about books, like the books everybody talks about, because, you know, I do feel like there is definitely something about, if a ton of people like a book, there's probably something to it, you know? I mean, not all the time. Sometimes you don't necessarily like the book that everybody else likes, but for the most part, there's probably something to it. But there is also something extra special about finding and discovering a book that nobody really talks about, and it's almost like you like discover something, like a little piece of hidden treasure or something, you know? I don't know if anybody else feels like that. So this is a thriller book. It's about 3 girls who 7 months ago, they all happen to be staying in the same hotel, and then all of a sudden there was an earthquake and a fire, and then none of them remember what happened. Like, they don't have any recollection of the event. So this event bonds them together. They become really good friends, and they end up starting a podcast where they just talk about stuff like this, where they're trying to connect with other people who maybe have had experiences similar to theirs. So one day from their podcast, they get kind of like a tip of something to go investigate, because that's what they do on their podcast. They like look into kind of spooky-ish stuff like that. So they end up going to an abandoned asylum and they meet a mysterious shadowy figure, and it's spooky, and I don't really know what to expect. I feel like there might be some paranormal elements to this book, which I don't really read a ton of stuff like that, but something about just like the whole podcast premise, and then like 3 girls not knowing what happened to them, becoming friends because of an event. I just feel like it could make for like a good story, you know, just especially exploring the relationship between 3 friends who have been through a crazy experience, and then also I just kind of already want to know what happened in that experience, and I haven't even read it yet. So it drew me in. Jane Ann Krentz, you got me with your synopsis. I bought your book. Next up from Half Price Books, Zombie Abbey by Lauren Barrett's Logstead. Up here, it literally said, I loved every hilarious moment of this delightfully unique mashup of Downton Abbey meets The Walking Dead. Literally, say less, immediately put in the cart. Yes, absolutely yes. Okay, this one's kind of fun because my husband actually picked this out. He likes to go to Barnes & Noble with me. Like, we just, I don't know, it's something we do. We go to Barnes & Noble together. He's not really a big reader, but he actually edits the videos for this channel, and he keeps up with books sometimes, and he likes to just kind of browse. And like, it's funny because he'll be at Barnes & Noble and he'll recognize books on the shelves that I talk about in the videos, and he's like, oh, that's that one, or like, oh, this is this author. But he saw this and was kind of like looking at it, and he saw Alchemist, which Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood Brotherhood, the anime, is like his all-time favorite anime. And he was like, ooh, Alchemist. And then he saw the cover and was like, this looks like something you'd be into. And I was like, absolutely yes, this looks like something I would be into. So this book is about Zelon, who has dreams to become a royal alchemist, but currently she's living a very impoverished life. She's practicing alchemy illegally just to be able to survive. And one day she gets the opportunity to go compete against other alchemists. She also has a reputation for being able to raise people back from the dead, which is kind of crazy. And the current crown prince, who is currently fearing an assassination attempt on himself, of course seeks out the person who is rumored to be able to raise people from the dead. And that sounds so fun. I really like fantasy books with kind of an Asian flair to them. I really love reading stuff like that. So that just seems like a super interesting concept. I haven't actually read a book about alchemy. I've obviously watched animes about it, or anime, Full Alchemist Brother, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, but it'll be cool to read about it in a book. Jeez Louise, I can't talk. The next book I have is from Barnes & Noble. It is The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I know everybody knows her book better than the movies, which I actually have not read yet, which is kind of crazy because it's super popular and everybody talks about it, and it is definitely on my TBR. But I saw this Barnes & Noble exclusive edition with the gorgeous sprayed edges, and you know how I get with sprayed edges. I like can't control myself. It's a problem. I don't know what to say. But like, they have hearts on them. What was I supposed to do? I couldn't just leave it there. I had to get it. I've been wanting to read Lynn Painter books, so, you know, this is just an excuse to read it. I think she does have an adult romance book out now, but I think she's kind of known for like a YA romance kind of author. I've read one YA romance before and I didn't like it that much, but I am totally willing to give more YA contemporary romances a chance. So we'll see how this one goes. I think this is YA, or is this one not? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Watch me be completely wrong. Next up, I have Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling. This is also from Half Price Books. I kind of want to read this, but like it's not really high on my list of priorities. My husband wanted to get this one because my Harry Potter collection over here on my bookshelves, they're actually all his, and he really likes the Harry Potter books, which he doesn't read a lot of books, but he did read the Harry Potter books when he was younger, and he just like devoured them. And both of us just kind of wanted to complete the collection, you know, because this is kind of the next book, the final book in the series and everything. Even though I'm pretty sure this is written as a play, and I'm pretty sure you can go physically see the play, which would actually be kind of cool. But you know, I have heard mixed reviews on this one, so maybe it is worth reading for myself and seeing how it actually is. I wonder if it's because of the play setting or if it's because of the plot in general. So the next book I actually got from a little free library, and this is called The Ladies of the Secret Circus by Constance Sayers. And I've really liked circusy themed stuff ever since I read Caraval. And you know, this one says Secret Circus, so of course that kind of reminded me of Caraval. I don't really know if it's about the same things as Caraval, but you know, it reminded me of it. But this one seems kind of interesting because it takes place in 2 different time periods. Just from the synopsis right here, it says Paris 1925 and Virginia 2004. And I like books that kind of do that, kind of like go back and forth between time periods and perspectives. And it says, enter the tent and discover a wondrous tale of lost love, family secrets, and sacrifice. It seems like in 2004, Laura Barnes is reading her great-grandmother's journals, and I am assuming the great-grandmother is probably who was in Paris in 1925. Does that math add up? I think it does, right? It probably does. I don't know. I can't do math. Anyway, sounds cool. Excited about that. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Literally everybody and their mama talks about Red Rising. It is apparently such an incredible sci-fi book, and I've heard it described of like sci-fi meets Hunger Games, which sounds really fun. I read Ender's Game recently and it was 5 stars. Incredible. I loved that so much, and it made me want to get more into sci-fi, and it's just something I haven't really done yet. And this can definitely be one that I hopefully get into soon, especially because it is a series and there's more books in the series, and it's kind of fun to read books that like you can anticipate reading more set in the same world, you know what I mean? Everybody loves it, so I hope I will too. Next I have Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. Crazy Rich Asians is actually one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. Me and my husband both love that movie, and we rewatch it kind of often. And if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it, but it's actually based off of books. This is actually a book series, and I think it'd be fun to read the books. And on top of that, I also got Rich People Problems and China Rich Girlfriend. I don't know which one comes next in the series. I'm definitely really excited to have these books, and I honestly can't wait. Like, I literally think of that movie sometimes just like randomly because I love it so much. If you're a romance fan, you'd probably really like the movie at least. I haven't read the book, so I can't fully recommend them yet, but like honestly, if the movie was based off the books, it's probably pretty comparable. If not, the books are probably way better anyway. So if you're a romance fan, definitely check these out. Next up, I have The Lioness by Chris Bojalian. I think I said it right. This is a historical fiction. It is actually set in Tanzania in 1964. It is about a girl who was actually a huge Hollywood star at the time. She is having her honeymoon in Tanzania. She's expecting it to be great, just to be like really chill, cool, look at safaris, etc. And her husband actually get caught up in a kidnapping attempt by Russian mercenaries. And it just, instead of being just like a fun honeymoon, it turns into just like this horrible event. And I don't know why that sounded really interesting to me. I read a lot of historical romances. Like, I really love historical romances. That's one of my all-time favorite genres. And I do want to read more just historical fiction in general. And this is one of those. And I don't read a lot of books from the 1960s, you know? So typically the books I read are from like the 1800s or beforehand, or like early 1900s. So this will be kind of fun to just kind of like dive into that time period, especially in this setting. Next up, I have Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I feel like anybody who knows anything about Western books knows who this author is. He is a very famous Western author. And Lonesome Dove is a very famous Western book series, and apparently it's incredible. This is something I've been wanting to read for a really long time. I saw a copy at Half Price Books, so I decided to just pick it up. My father-in-law actually is a huge fan of Lonesome Dove, the books and the TV show, because there is a TV show, and he actually described it to me as a love story, and I thought that was really cool. Obviously, I'm a huge romance fan. I like Westerns in general. Like, it doesn't have to be romance for me to like it. Like, I really loved the movie Tombstone. A lot of people kind of consider it one of the greatest Westerns of all time, so I want to know about it too. So the next book I have is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. He also wrote Blood Meridian, which I talked about in my last book haul. So The Road, I'm pretty sure, is referenced in the movie No Country for Old Men, which I actually did a reaction for on our other channel. If you haven't checked out that channel, we do a lot of reactions and commentary for movies, TV shows, anime, stuff like that. No Country for Old Men was a very good movie. A lot of people talk so highly of Cormac McCarthy's writing, and I'm pretty sure this is a father-son kind of type novel, and I'm kind of a sucker for parent-child bonding type stories, and this is definitely one of them. To Kill a Shadow by Catherine Quinn. I actually got this book at Walmart, and I'm not gonna lie, I only got this one because of the sprayed edges. I told y'all how I get with sprayed edges. They're so pretty, like look at the purple. I'm pretty sure this is a fantasy romance. It's about somebody who is working as the Hand of Death, which is kind of crazy. And he sees this girl, and I guess she like brings warmth back into his veins. I don't know, like gets the blood moving in him again. That sounds very fantasy romance to me, and I love fantasy romance, so why not? Next up, we have Guild by Raven Kennedy. And y'all, this book, just like the series, the Plated Prisoner series is what the name of the series is. This is one of my favorite fantasy series of all time, and people do not talk about it enough, and more people need to talk about it because it is so freaking good. But like, I do need to preface, this is a very mature fantasy series, definitely look up trigger warnings. And I feel like this is a series that gets better and better with every book. Until like the 4th book, I feel like there was kind of a little bit of a lull, but the newest book just came out and I literally cannot wait to read that book. Okay, like, so when you first read this book, you're probably gonna read it and be like, what am I reading? This is kind of crazy. But like, just trust me, keep reading, because this book is not what it seems. This is an incredible story about somebody who is going through, is this spoilers? I don't want to spoil it. Okay, I'm gonna say something, it's a very, very minor spoiler, but like if you don't like any spoilers at all, just like skip ahead. Here we go. So this book is a story about somebody who has pretty severe Stockholm syndrome, and it is about her finding herself and like learning what true love is. She's been told this idea of love forever, and like it's just so terrible, and it's like it's not meant to be good. Like I feel like I've seen some negative reviews for this first book in particular because people went in thinking it's a romance book, and it is not a romance book at all. This is meant to kind of be like a visceral reaction, like this is not what love is. And she eventually does find something better as you go, and it's just like one of the best stories of character development I've ever read. It's so good. The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. I actually got this from a little free library, and I'm pretty sure it is an advanced reader's copy, which is kind of cool. Obviously it wasn't to me, but like I found it like that. This book, it just honestly, the premise seems so interesting. A freshman girl who stumbles into her dorm room and she falls asleep and doesn't wake up, and like nobody can figure out why she's not waking up. And then all of a sudden, one by one, different people start falling asleep too, and just like they won't wake up, and it becomes like a pandemic of sorts of people just falling asleep, and people can't figure it out and can't figure out what they're dreaming about. And then a psychiatrist is called to kind of try to figure out what is going on, and that sounds really cool. I'm curious if this book dives into what they're dreaming about, or if it's just about a bunch of people who are falling asleep. Regardless, it sounds like a fun concept. Next up, we have An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. And y'all, this book I feel like is super popular. Not popular in the sense that it's talked about a lot, but popular in the sense that a lot of people who read this book really, really love this book. And there are more books in the series. I think there's 3 others if I'm not mistaken. This book basically is about a girl who lives in a very totalitarian empire, and her brother gets arrested for treason. So this rebellion says that they'll get him out, like rescue him basically, but she has to trade something in exchange. She has to spy for the rebellion in the empire's military academy, which is kind of cool and kind of crazy. And I'm pretty sure this has fantasy romance elements. I'm not 100% sure if it's just a fantasy romance story. I mean, it does say something like there in the military academy, she meets the school's finest soldier, and she and the soldier realize that their destinies are intertwined. And that sounds a little bit romancy. We'll see. Regardless, even without the romance, it sounds like a very, very cool book, and I'm excited to read it. Lastly, I have Drinking with Wizards, Warriors, and Dragons. So this is definitely a different kind of book. This is not a fiction book at all. This is a recipe book. I saw it today. We went to the mall and it was at FYE, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's kind of cool, right? Like, what's up with that? Wizards, Warriors, and Dragons. Lord of the Rings, A Court of Thorns and Roses. What? The Stormlight Archive, which was written by Brandon Sanderson, which I haven't read yet, but I have read the first 2 Mistborn books, and other fantasy favorites. This book has drink recipes, like cocktail recipes for different books and different book series. So there's like A Court of Thorns and Roses, the Cruel Prince trilogy. There's a drink for that, which I also love. There's Game of Thrones, which I've watched the series, and I actually really loved the series up until the last season. I didn't really like the ending. It feels like I was learning stuff while I was reading this too, which was kind of cool. There's also The Witcher. There's just like a ton of different stuff, and I just like totally wasn't expecting that. I got this because I want to make a video about it. So make sure you're subscribed, because I feel like I'm gonna choose a couple recipes out of this and make a video for it. I feel like that'd be super fun, and I was just like giddy about this. I was like so excited. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you're subscribed for all of my future videos, and I will see you next time.